President Trump has been all over the news for massive economic decisions, from a trade war with Canada, Mexico, and
China
to mass deportations. The problem is that it's extremely difficult to understand the real implications that these policies have for an individual person's current and future finances. Hi, my name is Louis Guajardo, a certified financial planner, and in today's video, I want to share with you the potential impacts of these policies for you, what I'm doing with my clients to prepare for this, and 3 things that you can do as well. Now, I'll also be providing you with a free resource later on in this video as part of one of the action items that you need to prepare for. So, let's get right into it. Now, I won't get into the nitty-gritty with tariffs because there are plenty of great videos like this one from Economics Explained that do a much better job of explaining them. But at its core, a tariff is basically just a tax or a duty imposed by a government on imported or exported goods. Many experts agree that this is just a sneaky way of generating more tax revenue for the government from its citizens. Yes, you heard me right. Even though tariffs are imposed on countries, businesses that import goods just pass that price increase to their consumers. So let's say that there's a 25% tariff on Canada, and there's a maple syrup company that wants to sell its products in the US. Well, if their normal bottle costs $10, then the US charges them 25% or $2.50 per bottle to sell that syrup in their country, which basically just makes the maple syrup company increase their price by the equivalent. So what ends up happening is that you and I end up paying the extra 25% or $2.50 each time we go to the grocery store to purchase that liquid gold. The annual spend increase as a result is estimated to be over $800 per year according to the Tax Foundation, but other estimates put it well over $1,000 per household. Now, this only gets worse when we realize how tariffs impact lower and middle class households disproportionately when compared to upper class households. So take a look at this chart, which demonstrates how much more of an impact they have. But keep in mind that this is from 2014, so the annual household income would actually need to be adjusted for inflation. So that's why some of these household incomes actually look a little bit lower than you would imagine. So the problem up to this point is that many people believe that the Federal Reserve has done a decent job landing this inflationary plane in a relatively smooth manner. But just as we're approaching the runway, a storm of tariffs and immigrants not showing up for work in key industrial and agricultural areas for fear of deportation is making the landing much more choppy. That's why just last week, the Federal Reserve decided to put a pause on rates after being on a rate slashing spree. Now, with all the economic uncertainty, it's easy to understand why so many Americans are scared of what's to come in the following months. That's why it's more important than ever to make sure that you are doing all of the things necessary to make this ride more bearable for your household. But what are these items that we should be doing? Well, it's what I've been doing with my clients, and it's what you can start doing too. And the first item is setting up an emergency fund for your personal self and an operational fund for your business. So depending on your situation and comfort level, we typically start with anywhere between 3 to 6 months worth of monthly expenses. Now, this doesn't include all expenses, however. These are just what's called non-discretionary spending, or the must-have items. That's things like rent, groceries, and other bills too. And you can use our free budget and net worth tracker linked in the description to determine what these amounts are for your household. Now, just like your personal household, this will be very similar for your business. Basically, all we're trying to do is to ensure that your household or your business can run smoothly for however many months worth of necessary expenses you have saved. Now, although 3 to 6 months is just a starting point, some people find more comfort having anywhere between 9 to 12 months worth of expenses saved. But I urge you that you have to be careful. There is a fine balance here, as every dollar sitting in the savings account is being eroded away by inflation. And this gets us to our next item, which is to invest your money. With all the economic uncertainty, it's unclear what path inflation will take. Will the Fed be able to manage Trump's new policies, or will they need to take a step back? And will the inflationary period just be an unfortunate spoonful of medicine that the US economy has to take? Well, if it is, in either way, to be honest, we should do our best to invest regularly. If inflation is just a matter of these circumstances, then investing your money in the stock market is historically one of the best ways to combat that. But your investment strategy should also be tied to your goals, whether that's retirement, buying a new house, or maybe even starting a business. And this brings us to our last action item, which is to reassess your goals. Your goals can be broken down into 3 different categories: short term, medium term, and long term goals. For my clients, we aren't redefining their investment strategy for medium to long term goals, which for us is anything above 5 years. However, your short term goals are going to require delicate guidance. It's impossible for us to make recommendations for any goals without having a complete understanding of your financial picture. Now, this is going to sound really crazy, but if it was possible to be more impossible, well, that would be the case for your short term goals. It is just far too difficult to predict what will happen tomorrow, in 3 months, or even a year from now. I mean, even as I'm making this video, President Trump just announced that he will be pausing all tariffs in Mexico and Canada for the next 30 days as they begin negotiations. So you can just see how volatile this situation really is. What I will say, however, is to go back to all these goals, check your current progress, and see how you're tracking. Now, here's a list of questions to ask yourself, which should point you in the right direction. How far away is the deadline? How much do you have saved? How much do you need to have saved? Where are your savings being held? A savings account, or are they invested? And is the amount needed to be saved still accurate? Remember that the closer you are to achieving your goal, the less risk you'll want to take with the strategy that you have. Look, we're going through some pretty crazy times right now, and it's so unclear what our economy is going to make of all this. But one thing is true. If you implement all 3 items that we discussed today, well, you'll be in a much more secure spot than if you hadn't planned anything at all. So if you want the safest and most secure landing for your household, well then review your investment strategy, check back on your goals, and put those emergency funds into place. And one last thing, if your money is tied away in savings accounts, you might want to check out this video to see how decreasing interest rates can actually affect your goals.